My name is Alita, and I work at St. Louis Public Library at Central Library. And I'm also an artist. And this is the fifth Art Studio Central. And we have one more after this, but I'll talk about that later. And Danielle is here. She's my colleague, and she is monitoring the Zoom. So if you have questions or comments during this session, just either unmute yourself and ask, that's totally fine, or put it in the chat and Danielle will let me know that it's there. And mostly what we do is just work together, and I'm going to go over the project and work alongside you. So just let me know if you have questions. And then at the end, we often show each other work that we've done, and that's a really fun part. I love to see what you guys did. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to start with. So we're doing a new medium, and that is ink. And my intention is to do ink washes or ink paintings rather than ink pen and ink. And I have this India ink. But any kind of ink that's used for pen and ink, or and it doesn't have to be black. Mine is. It doesn't have to be India ink, but any kind that you can mix with water is what we're using. And I have a couple of paint brushes. So I have a big one for washes, soft bristles, and then some smaller ones for more detailed work. And I even added this guy, which has, this is like an acrylic or oil painting brush. So it's got firmer bristles, and it has a flat rectangular edge, which is nice for texture. So I've got those there. I have a palette. Mine's big. You don't need this huge palette, not by any means. And then I also have a couple of jars of water. I'm going to go ahead and use two. One is for cleaning my brushes and one is for painting with, but one jar would be fine. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is that I have a tiny little vine charcoal. And this is just to put some initial sketches down. But it's not necessary. You can also just use a pencil or nothing at all besides your brushes. That's totally fine. And then I'm going to go over some of these things that I sent, or if you picked up a kit, you got these. These are just some images from the science and technology stacks. I found these in old astronomy books, and I thought when I was looking at them that they would be perfect for practicing ink painting because they are monochrome and also allow us to work with the full range of values, which is one of the main things about ink. So, and then also some texture and some middle range values. So we can do a lot of the basic stuff that you do with ink with these images. So, and also we had the supermoon this week, so, you know, it's all relevant. And I just realized this morning that this image here, this corona, was actually on May 28th of 1900, and today's May 28th. So this is from 121 years ago today, this eclipse. So I don't know, kind of cool. So I'm going to show you very quickly a couple things I did so you get an idea of what we're doing. This is an ink drawing I did last night. And what I did was combine the image of the different partial eclipse of the moon with this image of the corona of the, oh, I see a question, the corona of the sun. So I kind of am treating it almost like it's like a sketch journal, like as if I had observed these in person and I'm keeping track of them in my journal. So I divided up my page and did that. And here's another one I did with two different images in it. So we're going to work on one like this, and you can treat this however you want. If you want to try out just one image then and fill your page, go for it. If you want to try two or three, go for it. I divided up a piece of paper with some artist tape that I'm going to pull off after it dries. I don't even know if you can see that maybe, but that way I have my top image, my bottom image, and then I'll have some very clean lines in between it. That's totally up to you if you want to do that. And then another thing I will point out is that I have two kinds of paper here. This is a just kind of thick drawing paper, like a multimedia paper. And this is Bristol paper, which is often used by illustrators. It's very smooth and like extremely smooth. And it takes water and mixed media well. So you can use whatever. If you use like a watercolor paper, you'll find that the ink spreads out quite a bit, which can be a cool effect, but it just kind of depends on what you want. If you use a Bristol paper, you'll get really clean, precise lines. All right, so I'm going to start with my Vine charcoal. I have chosen to do the head of the comet on the upper half of my page or upper portion of my page. And I'm going to do this corona from 121 years ago today at the bottom. So it's going to be 2 images on my page. And I'm just going to start sketching in with my Vine charcoal some of the basic shapes that I see. So this oval egg shape, a rectangular shape here, and then this curved like crescent moon shape. Sketching it in. This is all getting painted over with your ink. So there we go. You can do this with pencil, whatever you want, like I said. And the moon shape. And I'm not going to color in the outside of this image, the full black ink color. I'm going to just save that for ink. But you can, if you want to, give it like the side of your charcoal if you have it and just give it an idea of what's going there. That's up to you. The ink, when you put water on top of charcoal, it will act a lot like ink actually. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to sketch in my corona. So I'm going to go ahead and just eyeball this perfect circle. The nice thing is that it's entirely black on the inside, so you can, it doesn't have to be perfect until you put your ink on it later. And then I'm going to give these rays of light or gases or whatever they are coming out that we can see. Okay. And I'm just really sketching this. I'm not doing anything precise right now. I'm just laying in the basic forms. Okay, very basic. And now I'm going to take my jar of ink. I'm going to make sure the lid is on tight and I'm going to shake it up. Believe me, you don't want to find out the hard way that your ink isn't on, or your lid isn't on your ink. So set that over here on my palette, and I'm going to go ahead and start practicing my ink on the sides of my sketches, because I'm going to lay ink down on top of this. I can put whatever I want here as practice. So I'm going to try out some of my techniques with my different brushes before I get started. So go ahead and take one of your brushes, dip it in your ink, and see what it's like without any water. You get a beautiful, just deep black or whatever color you're using line, and you'll see with this that you can really get precision, right? And try using the side of your brush to see how wide of an area you can cover. And before you add water, go ahead and take your brush with some ink on it and just wipe it on a paper towel until you have less ink but no water. And start seeing what kind of texture you can get with this thing. So you'll start to see that you can get this kind of feathery thing happening, which is great for something like this, right? These feathery marks that signify the light, the rays of light. It also is great for this texture, which if you take the tip of your brush and kind of do this, you can get like one dot, but if you have less ink and you start really pressing it, you start seeing that kind of a texture. If you have a brush with a flat edge and put some ink on it, that will give you a great texture like that. So you may not have the same brushes as me, you probably don't, but what the point of this right now, working on the outside of our sketches, is to see what we can do with our brushes. And the last thing I want to show you is go ahead and take either a brush you haven't used or clean your brush off and just get some water, some clear water, and put it, say, down here on your page. And now you have a wet area on your page. Take another brush and get some ink and touch it into that water, and you'll start to see a beautiful texture spread out in that water. And that is something else you can use. That's one of the beautiful things about ink painting, is watching the ink spread in the water. And then you can also come and get some more water and go on top of it and see what happens. One of the things I love about ink painting is just the way that you can really see the gesture of the artist, if you want to, the gesture of the hand. But you can also hide it quite a bit with some of these textures that you get with water, which are similar to watercolor, but they're different also. So now you probably have some dried areas at the top. Go ahead and take another of your brushes and add water to it and see what happens if you put water over a dried area. Nothing, right? So that makes ink very unforgiving in some ways, because once it's dry, you can't change it. If your ink says that it's watercolor, if your ink says it's waterproof, that's what it means. It means that once it's dry, water won't affect it. It doesn't mean you can't add water to it while you're working. So now that I've tried out some of what I can do with my different brushes and with different amounts of ink and water on my brush, I'm going to start actually painting. Depending on what kind of ink you have, the ink will dry on your brushes. So if you're not going to clean them right away, it's a good idea just to put them in water until you're ready to use them again. Okay, so I'm going to take, I really liked this texture that I got with this rounded edge brush. And I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to get some ink and put it on my palette. And I'm even going to take some of it off onto my paper towel because I want to get that feathery look that I got over here. Yeah. And I'm going to start adding it to my corona down here where the rays of light are coming out. And it helps to pay attention to which direction you're going, because when you first lay the tip of the brush down, it's darker than when you span it out like that, right? You feather it out and it gets lighter. So that's the side you want to come in towards your sun or your eclipse. So I'm going to go all the way around, making this feathery texture. And remember this, all this stuff I'm seeing on the edges, I'm going to paint over if I want to. I may decide it looks so cool that I don't want to, but I have the option of painting it over with this darkest of values, which would just be pure ink. Okay. So right now I have kind of in this bottom drawing, I have kind of like a medium range of values going on. And that's a good start. And I'm gonna now try to get this top drawing to the same level of medium values, right? It's mostly just medium grays right now. And I'm gonna see what I can do to get this kind of mottled texture that I see here in this comet drawing. If I really press my edge down with not a ton of ink on it and like pretty much no water, I start to get that. So I'm going to add that wherever I see it. Pick up a little bit more, and when you pick up more, you might find that you don't get quite as good. Well, that's not bad. But sometimes when you have too much ink on the tip of your brush, it's hard to get texture. Okay, and up here. I'm going to create these lines here with, I think instead of doing that in texture, I'm going to take a brush and go ahead and get some ink with a little water and make these lines. I can come over on top of them and give them more texture if I want. But now you'll see I'm starting to get that darkest value. If you have a dog, you might find a dog hair you need to get off of your brush. Get these lines here. And I'm going to go underneath this because there's a dark outline underneath the head of the comet here. I guess that's the head of the comet. And I'm going to give a thin line here. Okay, I'm going to come back in with my textured brush and go all the way around my oval with texture. Just like in the other classes with the other mediums, where we tried to handle the entire page, like keep the entire page kind of at the same level of being finished. I want to do that here because it just helps your eye see what you're doing compositionally. It helps you see what forms are finished or unfinished. It just makes you just, I think on a psychological level, feel like you're really accomplishing something in your painting. So yeah, we'll try to keep both of these going at the same level. So I'm going to start looking for value changes in my image. And if you just take your image and you squint at it, you'll just see what we have. We have this darkest value here and here, and then a few places in the middle. And then you have your medium that we've already got going, the medium gray here, and then your lightest here. So I am going to be brave. Remember that I said this was unforgiving, and that's true, but you should still have fun with it. It's not that serious. These are sketches. So I'm going to come in with just ink and no water, and I'm going to start laying in my darkest values where I see them. One of those places is here in the middle, down here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to be brave and not care if this circle is perfect. And you'll find that once you start having a range of values, your painting starts feeling really finished. I also see it around the edges here. And I think I'm not going to do the entire edge in this dark value. I am going to do some more of that technique with the water. I'm gonna give some water down here. And then I'm gonna add my ink and let it spread, just because I love that. And you know, this is a painting, not a photograph, so it's fun and pleasing to the eye to see the medium at work. Okay. So I got that cool texture down here. I hope you can get some of that. A second. Okay, looks like there were some people. Okay. Oh, and so look what happened. I just got a drop here because I was doing something else, and I am not going to feel bad about it. I am going to enjoy it because it doesn't in any way ruin this. In fact, I think it's these small little accidents that happen in painting that are sometimes the best thing that happen in painting. So I'm leaving that, and I'm going to just continue on with my dark value, using the side of my brush for big areas. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move up to my top drawing and start adding in some darker value here so that it's on the same level as the bottom one. So there's definitely dark value here, but I'm only going to do a little bit of it because I want to add some texture. I'm going to come to the edges here and paint like that. If you really wanted to, you could dip a big brush in for these areas. I'm just using the side of my brush to get broad strokes. You can pay attention to the direction you're painting in, because often you can see that with ink when it's dry. Just like in watercolor. So coming around this whole thing, with my dark edges. Okay. Right. I have a lot of ink on my brush now from doing that. Put a little more here. But what I'm going to do is use my paper towel and get some of that off so I can go back to texturing. Okay. And I'm just going to start doing more of that where I see it. And I'm going to start dealing with value within this texture as well. So where it's dark here and here and here, I'm going to start layering so that I get that nice mottled texture, but in a darker value. And that would be up here. Gonna need a little more ink, but not too much. Okay, is everyone doing all right? Okay, feel free to break in and ask questions or make comments if you need to.
Having so much fun.
Oh, good. All right, so I took some ink from this area that wasn't dry yet. If you have lots of ink, it takes a little bit longer to dry. And I just came down with my texture like that. And so I made those with a smaller brush and made them just smooth lines, but in reality, they are pretty textured. So I'm gonna come back in with my texture and go over those so that they're not such stark, don't have such stark edges. Okay. So anywhere I'm seeing these line edges, I'm texturing over them. And then I'm trying to get some gradual shading going, which you can do by, lightening up your touch. Okay, let's see. Going to do the same thing with this line. Might even pull a little bit so I get more of a feathery texture. And then I'm going to come in, I think, with some water. So I'm using the same brush. You don't have to, but you can get some water. And I'm going to get some of the ink out, but not all of it. Okay, so I have less ink now. I'm going to come in and I'm going to see what happens if I go over some of this texture that is already dry. So I can do some shading this way. So I'm just adding water with a tiny bit of ink, and I'm going to keep coming over here to my paper towel and getting rid of ink because I really don't want a ton. I already have enough on the page, I think. And I'm going to add lots of water on these edges of this oval. And I think I'm going to go for some of that effect of adding ink into water that I did at the bottom. So I'm gonna find a brush I have not used and it has no water in it now. And I'm gonna grab some ink and I'm gonna see what happens when I put it into the water that's still sitting on my page. I mean, it's so beautiful, right? Oh, I love that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you should definitely try this out because that's one of the great things about ink. And no, it doesn't look exactly like what I'm painting, but that is the artistic part, right? Now that's going to take a minute to dry. Hopefully you have a fairly flat surface. I'm on a tiny bit of an incline here, so it might drip down a bit, and I'm also okay with that. Coming in with some straight ink up here just to get rid of some of these edges that I can still see. Okay. I am looking at this and thinking that I need to let that top part dry before I continue. So I'm going to move back down to the bottom where I have this corona going. And I'm going to start dealing more with these feathery edges. And I'm going to, again, take a brush and get most of the ink off of it. Okay, and start feathering inwards. I'm not sure I like that brush for it. I like this brush that has the pointy edge. To get just ink on there, wipe it off on my paper towel and start coming in. If you have too much ink, you won't get a nice feathery effect. I think I still have water in this. There we go. And I'm leaving that drop, that drip that I accidentally made. It's always coming back for a little ink and then feeling like, oh, I have too much. But then you get to that point where you have like the perfect amount of ink on your brush to get these textures. Oops, now I went over my ink drop, but you can still see it. And actually that's really a cool effect. So yay, mistakes. All right. Just keep going with the feathering. Gonna deal with this edge up here. It kind of comes in more. Okay. Getting there. Okay, so I feel like I have a nice range of the darkest value I could possibly get around the edges and in the center with some nice middle grays feathering in. And I've left white paper for the lightest value. Same thing at the top here. Gonna come back into this guy and see what more I can do. So I have a lot of these dots in the middle that I want to add because I think it's a nice texture. I think I'm gonna pick up just some ink on the very tip of this brush, and instead of using a lot of pressure on my paintbrush to get that texture, I'm just going to come in and give some dots, just one at a time, just a few. Now I have a line here that doesn't really exist in the drawing, and I can't get rid of it, right? Because it already dried. So that's okay, I'm having fun with it. And I may do some more of that texture. I'm going to take some ink off my brush, do some more of that texture in these little, I don't know, comet tail beams, or I'm not sure what they are, but okay. And I need to deal with this center, which is not a bright white like the bottom has in it. So it gets a little texture as well. Now it's still drying in a lot of areas. Once that dries, it'll be very dark, but I want to show you that you can take a paper towel or a piece, like a cloth rag, and pick some of that up, and that can also give you cool effects. So there's a wet area. I picked that up, and it left kind of a medium value, nice texture. And now I have this on my paper towel, and for just a brief amount of time, I could actually use that to draw with, right? Or to make texture with before it dries fully. So I'm pressing it down on the edges here. So I picked up the wet areas and I'm using them to make texture and value. Okay. So I feel like these are getting pretty close to done. One thing I want to do on this top one is give a layer of the faintest amount of ink. So it's mostly going to be water with a little bit of ink. And I can see what my value is on my palette before I put it on. So yeah, it's mostly water, and that's what I want. And I'm going to come in and just give a little wash here, because on the drawing, it's not perfectly white. Here. And I'm okay with just going over this with water and not being afraid it's going to smear because it has already dried in the middle. Okay. Let me take a look at this bottom one. And the bottom one, I think I could do something similar to deal with this inside. So I'm going to just get the tiniest bit of ink. And that was way too much. Okay, that's better. And come in, and I'm doing that same feathering where I come from the outside in. with just mostly water, a touch of ink. And I'm just going to leave white around the, just around this black center, the white of the page. Okay. And I think I want to just add another layer of pure ink in certain parts using the side of this brush, this guy. This is my favorite one for adding just big swaths of black ink. And I'm not leaving it cooled on the surface. I'm taking as much of the pigment with me as I can because I want it to dry fairly quickly. And I'm not doing effects with it. I'm just wanting the dark value. But I am still practicing this technique of going from the outside in for my, so that if you can see any of the brush marks still, they will be headed in the right direction, which is towards the center of this form. Okay. I think that because of the light reflecting, parts of mine are looking lighter than they are, but that's okay. I'm picking up some of this, what I see still wet up at the top here. And you can feel free to do that too. Before we run out of time, I just want to show you something really quick that I didn't show you because I don't think it's a good idea to rely on this. But if you find that your painting is too dark in areas, so see when it's not being reflected, it is a very dark painting. You can take like a white piece of pastel or a white colored pencil or white acrylic paint or watercolor paint, whatever you want, and add some highlights. But I think it's important not to do this until you feel comfortable enough with your medium to achieve that range of values with just the ink. But since we are now pros, we can come in with I'm using a piece of pastel that we used in one of our previous classes. And I'm going to come in and, well, for instance, I still have that line that I don't like. I'm going to come in with the side of it and just give some texture and some light value with this pastel. And like I said, there are many different things you can use, but see how the pastel makes a really nice texture also. I'm going to highlight this little swoop that I don't feel like I rendered that form very well, but I can come back with my white. If you have it, you can do this. If not, feel proud of yourself for being an ink purist. So I don't think I'm going to use this at all in my bottom one because I feel like I really achieved what I wanted down there in terms of range of value. You can also start using, like we learned in the pastel class, that you can use your finger to do some shading. So that changes it a bit, but I just wanted to show you that you can do that. And you can also, well, like I have sitting right here, a whole bunch of different colors of pastel. I could come in and add color, and I could do that with watercolor as well. And then it just becomes like a mixed media ink project, which could be really beautiful. So I think I'm finished for now. I hope that you guys learned something, and I'd love to see what people did if they feel like sharing. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Look at that.
It was really fun.
That's so beautiful. Did you feel like you definitely got such a good range of value with that. Have you done this before?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Cynthia.
Oh, no,
Never done it before?
not. I've played with pen and ink, but I've never used it as paint.
Okay, cool. And what do you think?
Oh, it's really fun.
Awesome. And what did you, oh, that's your tape on the inside. Okay.
Yeah, that's the washi tape.
Yeah, you got some beautiful effects. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Somebody else has theirs up. Let me see here. Joan?
Yes. All I had to work with today was a marker pen. So it's just marker pen art.
Oh, you did that with a marker?
Yep.
That's amazing. And you chose that other Corona that has that little swirl in it. I love that. Yeah. You managed so much with what you're using. I'm really impressed. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to see the tool you used for that, the marking pen. You have that handy? You can hold it up? Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. That's so
awesome.
That's fabulous.
Impressive. Yes. Curtis, do you want to unmute yourself? Yes.
Here I am.
Okay. Sorry. This whole pinning thing is maybe not working out great for me. Yes, that's awesome. Have you done this before?
Never. First time I've worked with ink.
And what did you think?
I really like the medium a lot. I feel like, I want to experiment with the value of getting more of a range.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working in it and looking at the other art pieces that are done today. Very inspiring. And I like the Head of the Comet piece that we were copying. Just a really fun thing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. And that ink worked out well. I've never used that ink that you have. I don't think you have a different one than this, right?
This has been worked out just fine.
Okay, awesome. What kind of ink was that, Curtis? Will you hold that up again?
I'll hold it up. It says black ink, extra take.
I think it's Kuretake is the brand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Good job, Curtis. It looks beautiful.
Thanks.
Let's see. Anyone else? Any other brave souls? Lisa?
I will share mine.
Oh, that's cool.
Hey.
So
Oh, that's awesome, Lisa. I love it.
not exactly. I'll need more practice. It's not perfect yet. There's a lot of lines that I can totally see when I'm here, but yeah, I'm okay.
I think it's beautiful. It's very like bold. And
just like me, Alita.
Like you,
Just...
and delicate at the same time, which I don't know if you want to claim that, but good job.
Lots of fun.
Yay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Diana? No?
I think I see Benedict holding up.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yes. Yes, I'm not done, but it was a fun experiment. So I was on watercolor paper, and I think I will try more. I didn't finish because it goes too fast for me, but it's just a question to play. I think I will play with my daughter, who is 8 years old also. So I have the ink. So yes, so it's fun.
It's so good. You said it's on watercolor paper,
Yes.
and did you find that it really took the ink and kind of spread it out? Or I mean, it looks like you've got beautiful texture. So
Yes, but I don't know. I'm not an artist, but
are you
It's-
sure?
it's a fun experiment. So I will just it's a question to play with that, and so.
Yeah, I think you did great.
But it's clear that way we have. I think I have to use more my towel, the water. So because sometimes, oh my goodness, it's kind of tricky. So it's a question to play with
Yeah.
that.
Well,
But
I'm
it's-
so glad that you did it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. I think everyone who wanted to share has shared. So I want to just say that, hold on a second. Can you guys see me? Yes, okay. Then I will stop messing around with the screen. I want to just say that the next class is gouache paint, and that is an opaque watercolor, and it's really good for like design work. So I'm gonna pick probably something off the ceiling of Central Library, because there's all these beautiful paintings on the ceiling, and we'll do that. And I do already have the gouache paint, so if you want to come to the Fine Arts Room of Central Library and pick up a kit, they will be available the week of the class, and the class is on June 19th. It's a Saturday, so the paint will be available the Monday before. Gouache paint is really fun. Yes, I agree. So if you have any questions, just send me an email. If you want to send me your work that you did today, I'm collecting work from this class, so please do. And somebody have a question?
How would I do that? Just in an email, like take a picture?
Take a picture, send an email. Yep.
Okay.
Please, I would love it. People have been doing it, and it makes me so happy to see the work that you've done. And then also, it'll end up on social media if you're okay with that eventually. So I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you. That was very enjoyable.
I
I learned a lot.
Yay, good.
Thanks very much. It was a great
Thank you.
class.
Great. See you next time, I hope.
Have a
Yeah.
great
Yes.
weekend, everyone.
Looking forward to the gouache class.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.